Hello, this is Nancy Juetten, the Get Known, Get Paid mentor and the author of Bye Bye Boring Bio 2020 and the leader of the Raise Your Voice, Make Your Impact Facebook group. And today is a really exciting day because we are adding to the Learn More, Earn More expert series with awesome experts. And I have a very special guest joining me today, and her name is Cloris Kylie. Cloris Kylie, MBA, is the best-selling author of Beyond Influencer Marketing and the host of Beyond Influencer Marketing podcast. She helps service entrepreneurs grow their businesses by building long-lasting connections with influencers. She's been featured on media channels with millions of followers, and she's been on media channels that have really big names, including Entrepreneur on Fire. And she even offers a guide with 15 proven ways to get noticed by influencers. And you're going to want to go and get this. And I'm going to spell it out for you right now, right out of the gate. It's https://www.cloriskylie.com/Nancy. And I'm going to post that boldly in the show notes so you do not miss it, because you don't want to miss it. Welcome, Cloris. I'm so happy to have you with us today.
Well, it's awesome to be here, Nancy. Thank you.
You're welcome. You know, I came upon you kind of by surprise when I discovered your Beyond Influencer Marketing Facebook group, and I became so quickly impressed with your systematic, thoughtful, and careful way of nurturing influencers with really, really big names. And I started sitting at the feet of your wisdom, even though I've been at this myself for decades. I thought, I think I've got something to learn from Cloris, which is why I wanted to invite you to be part of this conversation. Because what we're talking about today is how to build influence, and also very specifically the how and the wow around creating lead magnets that convert, so that we can have a brilliant following of wildly excited, ready to invest potential buyers of our services who can't wait to say yes to what we have to offer. So I'm really, really excited to have this conversation. So before we dig in with the nitty-gritty of what you're going to teach and what we're going to chat about, since you are someone who is so brilliant at connecting with influencers, can you tell us a story about the most influential person that you've reached out to and what magic has manifested as a result of that mastery?
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. I mean, there are so many amazing people I have met along the journey, but I think the first top influencer I met is Dr. Wayne Dyer. He has sold millions of books worldwide, really a mentor for many people through his message. And he was a mentor for me too. I would read, I used to read basically every single book he put out, I would read. And I was going through a really rough time in my life. And his books kept me going. Like, I felt like without those books, I don't know what would have happened. So I was just full of gratitude right after the worst had happened. And I said, well, I have to say thanks. So I just wrote a heartfelt letter, just expressing how his message had allowed me to go through that tough time. And I knew that he was going to be speaking at a conference nearby. I'm in Connecticut, so the conference was in New York City. And I said, I would love to say thank you in person. That's it. And then I sent it to Hay House. He's a publishing company. So I didn't really expect to hear back. I said, well, that's fine. I just wanted to say it. I said it. And then a couple of weeks later, I go to the mailbox, and there it is. It's a letter from Maui, from Dr. Wayne Dyer, from his home, just saying that how much my letter had touched him, and he would be delighted to meet me in person and to give a piece of paper to the assistant and find the assistant. So I was just so excited. I couldn't believe it. So I went to that conference, and I met him. And from there, I felt like things really changed for me in regard to my desire to make a difference in people's lives. And he became a supporter. As I told him, I'm writing a book. I have this radio show. He sent his daughters to be guests on my show. And they were also amazing people. They also introduced me to other personal development experts to be on the show. And I feel like that's when I started to expand that network of influencers. And things kind of changed for me in regard to what I wanted to do long term, the possibilities I saw for myself. Because I feel like when you connect with an influencer, it's not just about, oh, this is what I'm going to do for your business, right? But what it can do for you as a person, because you start to believe in yourself much more. You see the possibilities, right? And once you see those possibilities, they can become a reality because you see yourself doing that. So yeah.
So, so sounds to me like this important, heartfelt note that you sent to a person that you admired helped you see yourself in a new light, and you weren't even motivated to see if that could help you in your business, but it helped you shift your mindset in a big way so that your business could subsequently take a new direction or shape. Is that right?
Yeah, it's true because up to that point I was running an offline business, so completely different market. I was working with students in high school and college, just to help them get to the next step. So either to go to college or to go to their graduate programs. So I would help them with their standardized testing and applications. So it was very different. So I didn't even see the link between like growing my business and connecting with Dr. Wayne Dyer. But after I connected with him, I started to think, oh my God, I really have this desire to help others after what happened to me. I felt that calling. He called it a burning desire, right? That you have to follow that inspiration, really. So that's when I started to think, oh, I think I'm going to start an online business. I want to publish a book. I want to get my message out there. And I think, yeah, the inspiration definitely came from that moment.
And so tell us a little bit about what you're doing now in your business so we can appreciate the context.
Yeah. So as I started to bring influencers to that first show, of course, I have a marketing background, and I found myself learning a lot about how to grow a business, how to get your message out there, and I would again find myself talking to these people about marketing, like, I noticed your website, maybe you could do this and that, and they're like, oh, this is great, yeah, and then people started to reach out to me for like quick questions about their marketing and so forth. And I really enjoyed it, just working with these people who, again, had a strong message to share. I just wanted to help them. And even after I'd had them on my show, I would reach out and say, oh, I noticed this, what if you did that? And, all these ideas. And they're like, oh, you always reach out with these great ideas. And a shift started to happen. I said, I'm really enjoying helping entrepreneurs who have a message to share, like who are driven by a passion, to help them do even better, to share their message in a grander way. So I started to think, if I have a background in marketing, why don't I put it all together and I make that shift. So it was tough because I had grown a list of subscribers for the personal development piece, and I knew I would lose a lot of them because I couldn't do both. So I had to let go of a lot of people, in that way. But I said to myself, I'm still empowering people to reveal their magnificence. That's still my tagline. It has been since day one, just in a different way, because now you're revealing your magnificence by sharing your message and helping other people. Yeah.
Brilliant. And so I know you have the podcast, Beyond Influencer podcast, you have the Beyond Influencer book, and then you have you have a Facebook group where people can gather, and then you have various programs in which people can enroll so that they can learn to exercise their beyond influencing muscles, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, my philosophy is not just to reach out to Instagram influencers and have them do a shout out. I'm not going to say some people do it and it works for them in the short term. I'm talking about building long term connections with influencers, people who reach your ideal audience, who can introduce you to that audience as the expert so you grow your list. I know this is an important topic we're going to be covering today. I feel like it's one of the most powerful ways to build an audience, to build your list, is by being featured by influencers. So it could be anything from a podcast guest appearance or even a Facebook Live that the influencer sponsors, or it could just be a joint venture partnership, which is one of the highest forms of collaboration. So whatever form that takes, I feel like it's one of the best ways really to grow an engaged audience. So everything I've done basically is around that concept, and about the concept of long-term relationships, not just kind of doing a promo and then you move on and then you have to find someone new. It's about long-term relationships.
Yes, I think no one night stands is a really good philosophy when it comes to building relationships. And I've seen the extremes over the last decade or so. And you know, when you're involved in someone where there's a genuine connection that you want to build on and grow, and you also know when it feels the absolute opposite. And I've just made a decision that I want to be in that happy, generous space and not have any ick factor. So I think that, you know, no one night stands is good philosophy for a lot of things, not just what we're talking about here today. So let's talk a little bit about list building and growing that audience.
Yeah.
I mean, for as long as I've been in business, and I've been in business for a long time, people have said, you must have an audience, you must grow a list, you must have an engaged following. Can you break that down for us? I mean, what does that mean? Why does it matter? And how can we get started if we're new? And if we're someone that has ignored that up until now, and this is new information, how can we wake up to the upside of that possibility?
Yeah. Well, I would say now is more than ever, it's so easy to get a system created for you to grow a list of subscribers, right? When I started this business, it was tough. You know, the technology wasn't there yet. You know, it was a little bit clunky, and you had to piece a lot of software applications together just to make them work. And it was just a kind of a nightmare, though, to be honest. But now it's so easy. It's so easy to create an opt-in page and a thank you page, and just get your message out in front of those right audiences. Offer a perfect lead magnet, and then you welcome them into your world. Now, I've met a lot of entrepreneurs who maybe have a following on Instagram or even a Facebook group, and they say, no, I have my group, I have my Instagram followers, they love me, that's all I need. But think about the many people who have had their accounts shut down without notice. Really, you wake up, oh, what happened? There was this woman, her name is Charlene Johnson, and she had, I think, 100,000 followers on Instagram or more. And that was her thing. That's what she did. And then one day she woke up, your account has been suspended. And she talked about that. She said it was a big lesson for me. I lost my audience. So you don't want that. You don't want to depend on someone else to really to run your business. So instead, you want to have an audience that you control. I'm not saying that email accounts cannot be shut down, but at least you would be able to keep your subscribers, maybe move to another platform. But having your own list of subscribers allows you, again, to have the control to reach out to them. And of course, you can gather much more information. You can gather the phone numbers and reach out to them via text messages if that's what you need for an event or something like that. You create a relationship with them. So that's why it's so important. So if you are watching or listening and you haven't really started because you feel like social media is enough, it's not really. You don't want to be awakened to the reality that we need to have a list of subscribers. And this applies to all businesses, whether global or local, right? Even local businesses, I see, there's so many missed opportunities when, customers go and they never gather the customer information, so they cannot reach out to them with special promotions or events. You definitely have to gather that information everywhere you go. So that's what I do everywhere I have a presentation or an interview. I'm always ready with a gift for people to sign up for my updates. And I'm very clear that I will continue to send them updates so that they're not surprised. And that's what I do. So I continue to nurture them, take them to that journey to eventually work with me in some way. It could be joining my mastermind or working with me one-on-one. And if some people never work with me that way, it's fine, because I know I'm still delivering value. And, you know, I'm making a difference, which is the whole point of in my mind, to have a business. So.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I want to point out something sort of techie that I think is so smart and strategic of you, is this interview is going to be seen by potentially thousands of people who ultimately purchase Bye Bye Boring Bio 2020 when it comes out in September of 2020. And there's a special link that gives you, the viewer, access to Cloris's 15 proven ways to get noticed by influencers. And she's created what she calls a pretty link that's trackable. So let's talk about that. What is a pretty link, and why is measuring the impact important?
Yeah, so important. I feel like even people who have, you know, seven-figure businesses might not be doing this. And I feel like regardless of the size of your business, you gotta do it, because that way you know what works. And what I do with Pretty Link, which is a plugin, it's free for WordPress, is that I create customized links for my lead magnets. So people say, oh, so do I have to create a landing page and a lead magnet for each appearance I have? And no, not at all. What you do is basically you have the same page for everybody, but you just it's a redirect link that you customize. So if I'm going to be on your show, Nancy, I just say, I thought about doing learn more and more, but then I said, that's too long. So I just said, okay, ClorisKylie.com/Nancy, that's it. So then I know how well your audience resonated with my message and my lead magnet. So if I said something and people resonated with it, it's like, oh, this is great. I have to do more of that. I have to continue to work with Nancy to share more with her audience. But if you go to someone's platform, podcast, YouTube, whatever that is, and you get one click, it's like, okay, something's wrong here. The audience didn't resonate with my message, or maybe the owner of that platform really doesn't care too much about sharing their content. So you know, okay, maybe this is not where I want to spend my time. So it's about knowing what you're doing, knowing what works, what doesn't work, so you can make the most out of your time, because you know it is your time. So you want to make sure that you're really always moving your business forward.
Well, and so to pile on to that, you know, you are someone of influence who I'm creating a relationship with, whose work I admire. And we're having a juicy conversation that I think is going to bring a lot of value to my tribe. And so one of the ways that I'm going to move ahead is I'm going to make sure I showcase this interview in prominent ways, social media, my newsletter, other ways that I have to make my own impact and raise my own voice. And I'm going to tell you what I'm doing to make that happen, because I am working on nurturing a relationship with you. You know, it's the people that say, oh yeah, you can mention a link, but when the host doesn't do anything to bring additional attention to it, the fire can't turn, the flicker can't turn into a fire without a little ammunition, you know? So if you really find somebody that you're interested in creating a relationship with, I always say, go the extra mile. See, you know, are there 3 to 5 things you can do to exceed that guest's expectations so that you know that they're getting to be heard too? Because if I'm not the guest that you want to work with, you know, Cloris may be the expert you've been looking for, and that's magic, you know, if you can help people solve problems. So now we know about pretty links and why we should use them. And we know that we don't have to create multiple lead magnets. It's just one, and make sure that it's like a hardworking tool in the shed. And then when it comes to actually measuring, like I use leadpages.net for most of my opt-in pages. What platform do you use?
Yeah, that's good. I used to use lead pages, but then I switched to ClickFunnels. And I love the change or the switch, just because I used to have a shopping cart, and then I would have, of course, the email, and then the affiliate software. So I had to put it like all together. And with ClickFunnels, I could do it all in one place. So that's what I do. And I do, they have a tracking or stats tab where you can see how many people visited the page, how many people opted in. So that's also, actually, now that we're talking about tracking though, it's important that you know, because you might be thinking, oh, I just have to have one landing page. I create it and I'm done. Well, you got to make sure that that's really optimized, because if only 25% of the people are opting in for your lead magnet, it's not the right lead magnet, right? Or the right page. It could be the page is not really, telling people what they're going to get. So you must kind of work on it and optimize it until you're getting at least, I would say, 50% conversion rate. So my page wasn't that great at the beginning. I had a 25% conversion, and I brought it to 30, 35, and now it's up to 70%, 65,
oh my goodness.
70%.
So when we go to this ClorisKylie.com/Nancy, we're going to see a 70% converting page.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're watching this, I want you to study what you see when you get there. And there's something else I want to add. And, I talked to a lot of graphic designers that are all about making things pretty. And they'll be working with some new entrepreneur about creating a website and saying, well, let's put an opt-in page on your homepage, and let's, we've checked that box, and then you ask the entrepreneur 3 months later, have you checked to see if anybody's actually visited and downloaded that thing? Oh, no, haven't looked at that. And have you compared whether the thing on your homepage works better or worse than the standalone lead page where that's the only option? Oh, no, haven't looked at that. What you measure gets treasured, right?
So true. So true. And then if you're hoping that people will just go to your website and find your lead magnet, it's going to be tough. They say I think it's 0.3% of visitors sign up for a subscribe me to updates box. So that's almost nothing. And maybe you'll get I have a pop-up box on my website, and I think it's 1.5 to 2% conversion on that, which is very low. So yeah, you definitely want to send people to a landing page with one purpose, and that purpose is to give people your lead magnet. That's what really works. So,
well, brilliant. Given the choice between minuscule percentage from the homepage to 70% from the landing page, there's no real decision to be made here.
That's right. Yeah. Plus, you gotta make it easy for people. We think, oh, you just go to my website and then you're gonna click on this tab, and then the tab you'll find the lead magnet or the gift I have. You have to make things very easy for people. Again, until people get to know you, and then they want to seek more from you. Like I have people who ask me, what else do you have coming up? Because I'd love to be part of it. That's because you've built that connection though. But at the beginning, you definitely have to just make it as easy as possible.
Brilliant. So I know there's so many different kinds of lead magnets. Like you're offering a guide that offers 15 proven ways to get noticed by influencers. So it's a guide with 15 bullet points, I'm guessing. What other kinds of lead magnets are particularly effective in this day and age where we find ourselves? And the date we're shooting this video is in June of 2020.
Yeah, I would say anything that is quick to consume and that creates a quick result that people can test out and say, oh, it worked. This is great. I want more, right? That's what you want, especially when you're being featured by influencers. You don't want to say, oh, you can access my 3-hour masterclass. That's a lot of work, right? So you want something that is easy, quick. People can check out what you have to offer. And then, yes, you can offer your masterclass or your mini course or whatever it is that requires more involvement and more time from the person. But at the beginning, just make it easy, actionable. It could be a checklist. It could be a list of resources, right? Something that is just pretty quick. For example, this guide with 15 ways to get noticed by influencers. You select one and you implement it. You see it worked. The influencer actually noticed you stood out. Then you want to try another way, right? And I feel like people are looking for ideas. So if you give them something that has a list of ideas, so they can come up with their own, also that's good. So again, think about something quick, easy to apply.
And so this isn't giving someone a PhD in your
Right.
subject matter. It's
Correct.
just enough to convey value, get them engaged, and have them hungry for the next thing.
That's right. Yeah. And it's important that you always include within your lead magnet your next step for people in the process, right? It's a client journey. So maybe you want them to join your Facebook group, or you are ready to maybe offer them a low ticket program. You could have a link to that, or you have a webinar that you want them to attend, or to go to your mini course. Whatever that is, always think, what is the next step? And then include that within the lead magnet. That's very important.
Yes, brilliant. I think that there's so many, I'll tell you a funny story from my own early past. I was doing a lot of joint ventures with people with really big names. And this one woman said to me, I love you and I love your work, but I'll never promote you until your list size is at least 10,000 subscribers, because that will be worth my time. And I remember feeling like a little kid at Thanksgiving that wasn't getting invited to the big kids table because my list wasn't big enough. And so I got really relentless and tenacious in the pursuit of growing my list, so that I could have a screenshot that I could show this expert. Look, my list is 10,345. Let's play, But my mistake, and this is very transparent, is that I just wanted to get the list grown so that I could get invited to a bigger table. But I wasn't specific and strategic at that time of guiding people to the next step. It was a huge missing piece for me. Just don't get the people on the list. Be clear about what next step you want them to take, because if you don't have to invite them to take the next step where hopefully there's some exchange of value in the form of currency, you just have people on the list that aren't really going to go anywhere or do anything. And having the wrong people on your list just to have the right numbers so that people will play with you is just bad business. And yeah. I learned that the hard way, and there I share it, with a full heart, and, so I can avoid other people being caught up in that game, which is not the game you really want to play if you want to have influence of magnitude with real people that want to work with you, right?
That's true. That is the mindset of somebody who goes to LinkedIn and then starts to invite everybody to connect, but they never really reach out to the people they have just connected with. So they collect connections. Oh yeah, I have 5,000 people on LinkedIn, but what does that mean, right? Like, are you really creating relationships with them?
Yes.
I think it's a very common mistake, because we're focused on, right, we feel like we're pressured to get those results, to show those numbers, to keep up, right? So I think it's very common. So if you found yourself in that, that situation, is okay. I mean, it's just a matter of saying, okay, so that wasn't the right way to go about it. What can I do to create those relationships now? What can I do to nurture my list? And I just take action, and that's it. Yeah.
Well, I think for years I was just so excited that I had a list that I really didn't think too much about the manner in which I grew it. But now that I'm older and wiser, it's like Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. Yeah. So my focus now is quality and doing the right thing by everyone that joins, and paying attention to how well lead magnets serve, and if they're not serving well, then what can I do to make them better, and what next step can I invite people to take that's going to be a win-win all the way around, and just sort of build a moat around myself about whether or not other people will want to play with me, and try to play my own game as best as I possibly can. That's been a big shift forward for me lately.
That's awesome.
So I know you have a podcast that's brilliant, and you invite wonderful guests to be part of it. And you also are a guest on podcasts. And so to what extent have you found either or both to be influential and impactful in growing your list?
I would say both have been influential and impactful. The podcast, I would say, has allowed me to connect with influencers. right? So people probably I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to talk to or meet. When you have them on your show, then you create a relationship, right? So from there, and actually, I think you recently listened to a first part and a 3-part series on how to make the most out of your podcast guest appearances. So the same applies to a guest being on your show, though. Like you have to leverage that opportunity to move to the next step, because you should have a long-term objective with that influencer. So what is it? At the end of the interview, you could say, oh, I would love to get up on another call just to learn more about what you have going on in your business, how I can support it. So what is the next step, right? So having this show has really allowed me to do that. It allows me to build value to new connections. So if I meet someone who I feel is wonderful and has a great message to share, I invite them to be on my show. So I build relationships through the show. And I also sponsor my own show. So people say, oh, how do I monetize my podcast? Should I get sponsors? And the answer is no, don't. Get into a level where you can sell sponsorships on your podcast. Takes years, really. You have to have, hundreds of thousands of listeners to be able to even start. So instead of doing that, why don't you just offer your own lead magnet at the beginning and the intro of your show, and the outro, you send them to your Facebook group or whatever that is. So you're always kind of sponsoring your own show and growing your list from your listeners of your podcast. Yeah, and then for being a guest on other people's podcasts, definitely, but you gotta have that perfect lead magnet and mention that, have it be part of your bio. At the end of the interview, mention your lead magnet. So every opportunity you have to share your message is an opportunity to grow your list. So podcast guest appearances are great for that. Yeah.
So when you have good rapport with the guest and it's cooking with gas, that people are that intimacy that you have with the host is going to translate to the way the audience feels when they're tuning in. And when they love what is shared, they're definitely going to want to go and get whatever it is that's being shared. How would you compare the impact that you get from podcast guesting and podcast hosting to what happens for your list when you do a more conventional joint venture?
I would say the difference with the joint venture, since if let's assume it's one of those joint venture partnerships where there's an exchange of commission, right? People are in it for there's a monetary benefit. They are promoting, yes, your content, but also your product. So I feel like it's more driven towards sales, but you still grow your list, but it's more like sales driven. Now compare that to a podcast guest appearance where the focus is the lead magnet. So I see that as more of a way to grow your list rather than to sell. Of course, people who join your list will eventually go through that journey and that path to work with you. Many of them will become clients and buyers.
I just have to interrupt and say, I don't know if you can hear my dog barking, but he is definitely barking.
Well, I think he wants to be on a podcast.
Yes, he sure does. Oh my gosh. Let's see if we can get that to stop. I'm also noticing that your lights are shining. I'm just going to take a quick moment to pause the dog. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
Okay. Wonder why the light is shining. Must be let's try this.
Cloris, I'm back.
I tried to fix the light, Nancy, But I think it's the same. It's not really the light. It's just the sun. It's kind of the camera is playing tricks with, hey, hello, here's the barker.
This is a dog that definitely wants to raise his voice and make his impact. Now, will you kind of like stop that?
No.
All right, let's keep going. I apologize for that. I'm glad you're having sun there. So with the joint venture, the partner is mailing to invite their whole community to come and check out a webinar or a teleclass or a masterclass or some kind of a joint interview. And the guest is going to be delivering content and making an offer.
Yeah.
And that means that they'll be able to measure the impact of that by opt-ins and also by sales.
Right.
So the joint venture partner might be particularly motivated to have that monetize. So my guess is, or sense is that it's a bigger, you're going to have more volume in terms of opt-ins and sales because it's very specific. Whereas the podcasting could be more of a drip kind of a supporting thing. Is that right?
I would say yes. I mean, I see joint venture partnerships as a way to boost sales for sure. But yes, you will have people opt in as well. Podcasts, you can do several interviews, have your list grow pretty fast from all the different interviews. But yes, it does happen over time. It's not going to happen all in one day. So you're right, Nancy. Yeah, I think there are all ways to grow your list. If you want the best way to grow your list, I would say virtual summits and giveaways might be the best, like the fastest ways to grow it. Or if you do a joint venture partnership with several partners, right? It's kind of like having a summit, but it's a launch. So then you would get a similar impact. So I guess it depends on how many people you're playing with, right? If you have a joint venture partnership with just one person who is doing a joint webinar with you, depending on the size of their audience, bless you, you might get 100, 200 subscribers, which is just similar to what you would get with one podcast guest appearance. So, I would say it depends. It depends on the partner, their audience size, how many partners you have. The good thing about JV partnerships is that if you're launching something, you can invite several partners and have people join at the same time, just like a summit. So that's another difference.
So do you have any advice for people that are newer in their business and when joint ventures are well timed for them to consider as a list building strategy? Should they, for example, prove their own offer before they invite a joint venture partner to lend support to it?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, you definitely have to have a program that creates results. So you have testimonials, that you have basically tested the entire funnel to bring people to that offer. So testing the lead magnets, testing the opt-in pages and the sales pages and all of that. You have thoroughly tested the webinar that really works because, you're building trust with your partner. So if you say, oh, let's do a joint venture webinar, right? And you do the webinar and nobody signs up. I actually have somebody like that. I really liked his message and he said, oh, I would love to do a JV webinar with you. And I said, yeah, sure, let's do it. So I did it just for his audience. So we show up and it was just the two of us. Nobody showed up from his audience. So I said, well, that's too bad. It's okay. Let's record it. You share it with your list. But of course, it wasn't great. So you definitely don't want that to happen. You want your partner to have a good experience, to feel like it's worth their time and effort that they're giving you, whatever that is, promoting your stuff or doing a webinar with you. So you have to test this before you reach out to partners. Yes.
I'm really glad we covered that because there are communities that are all about how rapidly you can grow your business when you have the support of JV partners. But if you haven't yet proven your own offer to your own community and gotten testimonials and made money with it and tracked your metrics, it can be very challenging to sell yourself to a JV partner, because sometimes they'll say, well, how many people did you get to your webinar? How many people registered? How many people showed up? Of the people who showed up, how many people actually made a purchase? How much did they invest when they made that purchase? Was it a $47 or a $5,000 thing? Because a partner wants to know that if they're applying time, effort, and money and resources to promote something, they're not just doing it because they like you, they're doing it because they want to make money. And if when they go through that exercise and they don't make money as a result of it, that could be a bridge burned that won't allow you back in because it was a waste of their time for the outcome that they wanted, right?
That's beautifully said. Yeah, you definitely want to keep that relationship strong, and not testing your offers is a way to really damage the relationship. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Let's see. What are some of the big mistakes that people make with list building? I mentioned one of the ones that I made, which is go for the list and not care about what happens next. Don't be that person.
That's right. That's actually huge. Not knowing what happens when people join your list. I've met people who I say, "Oh, how many people do you have on your list?" And they say, "Oh, 1,000," and they're really proud of it. So I said, "Well, that's great. So how often do you email your list?" "Oh, last time was a year ago." It's like, "Oh, okay. So that list, you email them today. They probably don't know who you are, right?" So that's important that you have a plan in place and a way to nurture your list beyond the welcome series. Because you might have a welcome series. You have maybe 4 or 5 emails that you send to people when they opt in, and then you disappear for 6 months. And when you come back, it's the same story. Like, who is this again? And you've lost the opportunity to create a relationship with your audience. So think about a way you're going to nurture them. And you could just write, something about your business, maybe the behind the scenes of your business. People love to see that. If you have a platform, a content platform, you could just share that with them with your own comments. So never just say, like, I have people who send me emails that say, "Oh, new blog post." That's the subject line. They don't even tell me what the blog is about, and it's kind of like an RSS feed. People don't want that, right?
Put
So
some
you want,
sizzle in the steak, right?
right? They could really care about it. Yeah, tell them about your life. Tell them stories. Inspire them. If you see a resource that is useful, send it their way. What you want to do is for them to feel that it's worth it to be a subscriber, and not just that they could listen to your podcast and it's the same. And I've been guilty in the past to do that. Like, I was like, oh, if I just send a link to my podcast, I basically check the item on the to-do list, nurture my list. But it's not about that. It's about adding more to them, more value that people who are not subscribed do not get.
Right. Yes. So mistake is growing it without nurturing it, growing it and not using it to build the relationship. And
another mistake is really not gathering information about your audience and tagging them in a way that allows you to send relevant content to them. I was guilty of that too, because I would just say, "Oh, they came to my list. They all want to hear everything I have to say," right? But some people just want to hear about podcast guesting, and others just want to hear about challenges, or they have different interests. So it's important that you know those interests, so you don't have a 5% open rate, and instead you have an engaged audience who welcomes what you have to send to them. So you could do that by different ways. You could send a series of content about a specific topic and then tag people who either click on that content or open the emails. You could also send a special download for them to opt in, and whoever opts in, then you tag as somebody who's interested in that topic. So whatever way you want to do it, definitely do it. And then when you have something related to that topic, you're going to send it to them, and you'll have great engagement because that's what they want to hear about.
well, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because there was something that I was involved with very recently One of my favorite joint venture partners is Christine Closer, and she's part of the Transformational Author Experience, and she helps people get their books done. And we met in 2012, and I wanted to tell the story about how I met her because it was about building relationship with an influencer. Sometimes when we're in business, we know of the big names that resonate with us, that we follow their work, we admire them for whatever reason. And I knew who she was. And I didn't know that she knew anything about me, but one day I got a call from her team and they said, we're creating this transformational author experience and we're trying to curate prizes that would be relevant for our authors, that would encourage them to step up and do more with our program. We heard you wrote this book called Bye Bye Boring Bio. Would you be willing to offer it as a prize to a certain number of people in the program? And of course I said, I'd be honored. Thank you so much. How many would you like? And be happy to participate. And then what I did was I went one step further, is I printed out a copy of the Bye Bye Boring Bio workbook from way back when, and I wrote a personal note to Christine Closer and I mailed it to her. And I said, when the launch is over and you've been able to catch your breath, I'd be so honored if you took a look at this, because I think it's a resource that could be really helpful to your authors and help solve a real problem they have, which is the struggle about describing what they do and how they do it so that they're actually not embarrassed. You know, people really struggle with this. So I mailed it to her and I didn't think much of it. And then she asked me to mail on behalf of her promotion. And I ended up having quite an engaged audience that made quite a big difference in her results. So I ended up getting invited to speak on her summit 3 years in a row, and I made a lot of money as a result of that. And we created a nice relationship. Years go by, and a whole lot of life hits the fan, and we haven't been in touch with each other for a whole variety of reasons, having nothing to do with her. And she's doing another launch. And she asked me if I'd be willing to support her. And I said, I'd be happy to. And I decided to go all in with the launch because I have this authorship of this book and she's got authors that need bios. It feels like a very strategically aligned thing. So I mail my entire list about this thing, why they should participate. But then I notice who's opening and who's clicking. And so when I was doing my subsequent follow-up emails to make sure people had every opportunity to take advantage of her program, I only mailed to the people who opened and the people who clicked. And I noticed that the open rates were somewhere like 25 to 38%, which is considered pretty high for email. Yeah. But I didn't pound everyone else on the list who was not demonstrating interest. And this was when I first learned how to do this, it was kind of an aha for me that I wish someone had told me. So that's why I wanted to bring it up here. It's like, don't pound everybody in hopes that everybody will pay attention. Only go after the people that have opened or clicked or have demonstrated some action in the direction of moving in that direction, because you'll be serving your list well, serving your partner well. And then next time somebody wants to know about book authoring, you can reach out to those people and know that they're interested. So smart. Right?
That is true. That is brilliant. And something related to that is because you're measuring people's interests in regard to your message, make sure that your headline is specific. Like it really tells people what's in the message, so they know whether they want to open it or not, right? Like if you have a headline that says, "You will like this," like and people, you don't know, people clicked on it, maybe they were just curious or opened it, but they really don't care about the message. So you have to make sure that you have a really strategic and not cute headline. So I always go for straightforward. If I do something that is a little bit more curiosity driven, that's okay, but then I send the same message to people who didn't open with a very clear headline. So that way, more people get my message, but I'm really reaching the right people with it. So yeah.
That's so smart. That is so smart. So what are some of the biggest wins you've heard about when list building is done right? Let's intoxicate our viewer with what can go well when you do this right.
Well, what can do well, go well is like people actually start to engage with you via email, and then you bring them on a call. They become clients. I've had people who they just want to talk to me. That I want you to help me. Just as straight as that. I don't have to do a launch. They just reach out to me via email, and something that I feel like has helped with building those relationships is having a group, a Facebook group, or at least connecting with people on Facebook or LinkedIn, and really having that additional way to kind of relate to them, right? When I launched my book, and this will apply to you if you're listening and you have a book coming up, it's so great if you have a list, because if you don't, it's gonna be tough, to get the word out about the book, and it's not the same. But if you already have your list, when I published my book, I just said, I'm publishing a book, and those emails had the highest open rates I've had like ever. People love books. They were curious. They wanted to see what the book was about. So I had all these people buying my book from day one, which I think played a role in making it an international bestseller. I think it's because of that I had an audience. If I
Wow.
had just published the book, it was hard. So when you have a
Well,
new
and isn't it true that your book is offered at a very affordable price point? Isn't that right?
It is. I mean, the Kindle version is, I think it's $5.99, and the paperback is 19.99, 97 or something like that. Yeah.
So someone that's made the decision to part with $19 has made an epic step forward in the direction of your expertise. And when they read this international bestseller and they get to be nurtured every page with your magnificence, no doubt in the back of the book there's some kind of a next step for people to take. If you've loved this book, why don't you do, I mean, I'm sure you're extending a call to action there too, right?
Oh, definitely. There's several calls to action within the book to download the bonus package that comes with it, with templates and more training, video training. So that's another way I'm growing my list, right? And then, of course, there's a call to action at the end to check out my programs and book a call. So all of that is within it. So you're building even a stronger relationship. And also, I think the other beautiful thing about having your list is that you can support influencers by promoting whatever it is they have going on, because you have your own audience. I remember, what's his name? He's a top digital marketer, and he said he wanted to connect with the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. And he said, I'd always admire him. His name will come to me. It's not Neil Patel. Okay, well, it'll come to me. So he said, I noticed that he was promoting a program, and I thought it was a good fit for my audience, so I promoted the same program. So by being in the same group of JV partners, they got to interact, and eventually he ended up being the top partner, and that's how basically he opened the door to the conversation with this top influencer. They ended up doing business together. But like having your audience allows you to not just sell your stuff. When you have a book out or whatever, a podcast, same happened with my podcast. I have a new podcast, same story. I have a new summit, people signed up for the summit. So all those things, but also you can deliver value to influencers by sharing your message or their message with your audience. Yeah.
Brilliant. Since you brought up the leaderboard in the JV world,
Yeah.
when I was first coming up as a JV partner and I'd see those leaderboards, I thought, wow, I wonder what would happen to me if my name showed up on one of those leaderboards. Because when you're struggling being invisible and you're one of those A for effort kind of people, you're known for that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when people start to see that the influence you have actually shows up in the shopping cart, there's something that shifts in the universe in your favor. And I remember that I kept on finishing in these mega launches in the top 5 or the top 10. And you'd look at the list and there would be the usual suspects, all these big names. And then mine would be right in the middle. And people started going, well, who the heck is Nancy Juetten? And all of a sudden I started getting all these private messages from people saying, hey, congratulations on your excellent finish. We should get on the phone and talk about how your business is growing and la, la, la. And it was like, wow, talk about visibility, talk about opening the door to big influence. That was a big effort on my part for a number of years that really did put me on the map. So there are some distinct advantages of doing that, I have to say.
That's true. Plus you, like if you are part of the leaderboard, right? You can reach out to the rest of the people in that leaderboard and say, well, we're part of the launch. You know, you might have seen my name. Let's connect. So it allows you to expand your network too of influencers. So it's
and I think
many benefits.
I think for me, like I'm such a sweet person and I've got sort of a soft nature. And I think that I've learned over the years that people can easily underestimate me because I'm not a shark, but I swim like a dolphin with some of the biggest and the brightest. And so don't underestimate me, and don't underestimate Cloris either, because there's a lot of power in the 10 over here.
That's great.
Yeah, so I just think that's really important to bring up, because not everybody has got teeth and claws. Some people are just really nice people with a lot of influence who are making it happen.
True.
So is there anything we should have, this call was all about the how and the wow of creating a responsive list so that you can accomplish more magnificent things in your business. Is there anything we should have covered that we didn't cover in the time that we had?
Well, I would say it's important that you do this consistently, not that you have, one time promotion to grow your list. Maybe you do a summit, right? And then that's it. You feel like you're done. You have your list. You have to continuously grow that list, find opportunities to share your message, and continue to nurture the list. So thinking about Suzanne Evans, I was watching a video that she created. She's I would say she's very well known in the industry. Mm-hmm. And she said, yeah, whatever work you have to keep doing. Yes, tomorrow and the day after and the day after. And if that's too overwhelming, just say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do the same and it's going to work out. And then you keep doing it day after day. And that's how you grow a business. So same applies to list building.
I couldn't agree more. And then, the other thing I would point out is that it's June 2020 and the world has turned on a dime with the COVID-19 pandemic, and what used to be standard and expected, everything has changed. Mm-hmm. So there's an awful lot of pivoting going on, a lot of shifting. And so if you find that you need to change your message to be relevant in a changing marketplace, have the courage to do that and ride the wave and the ebbs and the flows, and just be committed to being a winner in everything that you do. List building being an integral part of what it is to have an audience, so you can raise your voice and make your impact. So again, Cloris, tell us, what's that wonderful gift that we want to get before we, so that we can continue our relationship with you? To describe it one more time.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, it's my guide with 15 ways to get noticed by influencers to grow your business. And that's at ClorisKylie.com/Nancy. And what you'll find there is an overview of the importance of building a value, like really delivering value to influencers, and ideas you can implement right away to deliver that value regardless of the stage of your business. So you can then initiate that connection and reach out to the influencer, either to have them on your platform or to be featured by them, whatever your first goal might be. This will be like a door opener for you. Great ideas. You might come up with your own, but it's full of actionable stuff that you can implement right away. So,
well, and if we can implement those ideas to get interviews with Wayne Dyer and his daughters and Jack Canfield and David Newman and some of the other people of influence that you've been lucky enough to interview, then I think we would all be very well served to follow your lead. Cloris, thank you so much for making time to have this conversation. I'm really excited to be able to share it with my entire community, which is of size. And I know that when Bye Bye Boring Bio 2020 debuts in September of 2020, that there will be a whole new audience of people that will be discovering you and how magnificent you are. And together, the rising tide lifts all the boats. And I'm so glad we're rowing together. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nancy. Me too. I'm excited about Bye Bye Boring Bio and cannot wait to share it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a mission we're fighting for. All right. Well, thank you so much. And if you are not yet a member of the Raise Your Voice, Make Your Impact Facebook community, I will put a link to that in the show notes so that you can join me there. And then be sure to follow up with Cloris with her report and just to be part of her Beyond Influencer Facebook group too, because the two of us, we pack a punch. We do similar things, but in our own unique way. And I think you'll find that there's a lot of value under the tent over there. All right. Well, thanks everybody. And I will see you for the next video when I have a new awesome expert to help you learn more to earn more. Thank you all so much. Let's see.